So we're going to talk about some general strategies. We're going to talk about some strategies for factoring. And the first, and with this is stuff that that is going to be very helpful for us whenever we're looking at any polynomial that we're going to need to break down into smaller pieces. And the first thing that we should look at is can we do greatest common factoring? So factor out a greatest common factor. And I will also say, you know, if your leading coefficient is negative, factor out a -1. From there, we're going to look at kind of the important question is the number of terms. If I've got 2 terms, then usually we're going to be looking at like difference of squares. So a squared minus b squared can turn into that a minus b times a plus b. That's really kind of tight there. That's chicken scratch. There's another type of factoring. There's also sum or difference of cubes. I'm not going to go over it here. It does come up every once in a while, but for now, usually that difference of squares is what you're going to run into. If you've got 3 terms, if it's a simple trinomial, which means you've got a leading coefficient of 1, then your key number is, then you've got something like that x squared plus bx plus c. Your key number is c, and you're just going to populate your binomials with that factor pair that does that. Or if it's not a simple trinomial, then you've got that ax squared plus bx plus c, and your key number is a times c. And with this, we then use factor by grouping once we split that middle term. So we've got two terms, 3 terms, and last but not least, what happens if we've got 4 terms? 4 terms, we're going to be doing factor by grouping. And that is about the only type of factoring that we have. That's one type of factoring that we can look at. Now from here, we're then going to just basically say, and all of these processes are going to lead back in. We're going to then say, can we factor any of our other factors? Can anything be factored further? And this is what our process is going to look like. We start looking for the greatest common factors, then we start to break it down. If it's 2 terms, difference of squares. 3 terms, well, we'll break down that trinomial, either as a simple trinomial or using our AC factoring. Or if it's 4 terms, we're going to use factor by grouping. Once we're done with that, we take a look at each of those individual factors and see if we can go any further with that. Since this is recorded, I'm going to move on so I can give you an example of this. And let's do something like, I'm going to do something like this. Let's say we've got 3a cubed minus 48a. So I look at this, and the first thing I notice is that I've got a factor of a in common. And I think maybe I might have a common factor there, and 4 plus 8 is equal to 12. 12 is divisible by 3, so I can actually divide both of these things by 3. So I'm going to take a 3a out of both of these terms. And then I'll have a squared minus 16. Okay, now I look at this and say, oh, I can factor this. I've got two terms, which means I'm going to use my difference of squares. So I'll have 3a, and then I'll have a minus 4 and a plus 4. Last thing I'm going to do is I say, well, is there anything else I can do to this? There is nothing else, so this would be done. Another example of this might be something maybe a little bit more, might be a little bit harder to tell what's going on. Oh, let's do something that looks kind of scary. Say I've got like 4 4x squared plus 8x minus 12. And you might immediately go to, oh, well, my key number is going to be 4 times 12. But first thing that we should look for is our greatest common factor. All of these numbers are even, so I could divide them all by 2. I can only divide this one by 4, so I'll look over here, and sure enough, all of these numbers can be divided by 4. I'll divide all those by 4, so I've got x squared plus 2x minus 3. And now inside here, I've got a simple trinomial. So what I'm going to do is I say, oh, well, my key number here is -3, and I just need to list my factor pairs of -3. And I could do -1 and 3, and I have it in my first thing I'm going to look at. So this is going to be x minus 1 and x plus 3. And this 4 is just going to follow us along. I can't factor either of these things any further, so we're done. Alrighty, that's all I've got for now, so I will see you in the next video.